Hello everyone, Weather Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Tuesday evening, January 21, 2025. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video. I'd really appreciate it if you guys get this video up to 100 likes. If you don't know by now, that's how the YouTube algorithm works. We all like the video and then the YouTube algorithm pushes the video out to more persons who are in the path of these tropical systems so that we can keep everyone safe, especially during the peak months of Atlantic hurricane season. That's August through to October. Share this video with your friends, your co-workers, your relatives, and even your church brethren, and subscribe if you haven't yet done so. Please ensure that you guys utilize the progress bar that's located at the bottom of the video, as well as the timestamps that are located not only in the comment section but the video description, so that you can skip to the points in the video that you want to see the most in order to save time, because we know that the videos over here with the Jamaica can be very long. Leave a comment down below letting me know what did that be like in your year recently. Also feel free to ask any weather related question that you might have about the future or the weather in your specific area. Alright, so we're going to be looking at the Global Tropics Hazards Outlook from the US Climate Prediction Center. That's highlighting what the weather is going to be like from the time period from January 29 to February 4, as well as from the time period from February 5 to February 11. And we're going to be focusing our attention right here across the Atlantic as we look for all of what we see on the key. Clearly what we're seeing is some amount of greens stretching from the Eastern Caribbean to the Western Caribbean. We even see some darker greens across the Eastern Caribbean on both time frames. And we know these light shades of greens are representative of 50% above average rainfall probability, and the darker shades of greens up to 65% chance of above average rainfall probability. So it looks like from the time period from January 29 to February 4, some increase in rainfall is definitely going to be expected across the entire Caribbean. More so where we have those darker greens, we're talking about the Eastern Caribbean into the Southwestern Caribbean. And from the time period from February 5 to February 11, the same areas, but it's more so confined regarding the 65% chance probability across the Eastern to the Central Caribbean, right there across the southern portion of the Dominican Republic. Excuse me. Either way, we know that whatever the US Climate Prediction Center usually highlights, it isn't 100% set in stone. These things are subject to change, so we have to take these forecasts with a grain of salt and not really 100% rely on its forecast. But we'll see exactly what unfolds as we head into the first couple of days of February. Let us take a look at the latest Euro model that came out at 3:30 p.m. today, as well as the latest GFS supercomputer model that came out at 6 p.m. today. As usual, we're just going to be focusing our attention on the timestamp as we go to the next 168 hours. That's the next 7 days. We're going to be looking at what Jamaica is going to be in store for as we look for all of this that we see on the key on the right. That's the reds, the oranges, the yellows, the greens that represents up to inches of rainfall. Alright, so let us see what's going to be taking place heading into Wednesday. Clearly we see some amount of rainfall, especially across the eastern end. We also see that huge system that's definitely bringing snow to sections of Texas, New Orleans, sections of Florida, and a lot of rainfall definitely expected with this system as it continues to push towards the east. It doesn't seem like Jamaica is going to be getting in on any of the activity, as we see that most of it has dissipated by the time it gets to Cuba, the Bahamas. Most of it is right here to the east of the US. You also see some moisture associated with it across the Western Caribbean, maybe Belize, Honduras, but that's basically it. It doesn't seem like it's going to be pushing eastward towards Jamaica at all. However, we can see that as we head into Thursday, most of the moisture is across Central America. Some moisture across the Eastern Caribbean stretching all the way over to the Dominican Republic right there. Heading into Friday, look at this. An abundance of moisture stretching from the Eastern Caribbean all the way over to Jamaica. Very interesting forecast. Let's see if the GFS is showing something similar either way. Even as we head into Saturday, we have some moisture across section of Jamaica, Eastern Cuba, Central America, all the way down into the Windward Islands. Very interesting forecast for sure. That's what we want. We want some rainfall for sure. Sunday, we do see some moisture across the eastern parishes. Some moisture across the Bahamas, northern Cuba, northern Hispaniola as well. Heading into Monday, what do we see? We see a lot of moisture affecting the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, northern Cuba, the Bahamas, not so much across Jamaica, but the north and south of us, as well as sections of Belize right there. And we're going to be stopping it right here at the end of the 168 hours. So this is valid for Tuesday, January 29, 2025. And what do we see? Clearly, we see some moisture all across the basin, some spots here and there across the Caribbean, especially the Bahamas to the north of Puerto Rico and Hispaniola. Let us see what the latest GFS is showing. Heading into Wednesday, we see that moisture associated with that strong frontal system that's currently bringing snow to section of the southern and eastern US. We can also see some slight greens across eastern Jamaica. We'll see exactly what unfolds with that either way. We see some rainfall right here across the northeastern portion of the Caribbean, Leeward Islands. Thursday, don't see much across Jamaica, but we do see that tongue of moisture from the eastern Caribbean to the Dominican Republic, right here across the Yucatan, Belize, section of Nicaragua, Costa Rica getting in on the mix. But what about Friday, that the Euro was showing lots of rainfall? Well, I think we can see that tongue of moisture stretching from the eastern Caribbean to the south of Hispaniola towards Jamaica, but not so much across Jamaica like what the Euro was showing. We also see some rainfall across Central America, as well as the southern and western Gulf of Mexico. Saturday, we see some moisture across Jamaica, especially on the north coast, for sure with that moist northeasterly flow. Sunday, we see even more moisture. Very interesting forecast. Looks like a wet weekend in store for us. Heading into Monday, definitely not much, definitely less rainfall. We see more whites than anything else. But Tuesday, we're stopping it right here at the end of the 168 hours. And what do we see on both the Euro and the GFS models? Clearly, not much in the way of similarities. We see a lot of moisture to the north of the Greater Antilles on the Euro, not so much on the GFS. And both maps are showing Tuesday, January 28th, so this is interesting, showing some huge contrast. But what do we see in terms of consensus? We see some rainfall across sections of the Windward Islands, some rainfall across sections of Central America. But if we take a look at the accumulated precipitation forecast maps, both maps here from the Euro and the GFS are showing all the rainfall that's expected all the way up until Tuesday, January 28th. And we know the most rainfall on this map is represented by what we see here on the key on the right. That's the reds that represent up to 1 inch of rainfall. The dark reds, that's 2 to 2.5 inches of rainfall. The purples into the pinks, that's 3 to 5 inches of rainfall. And the peach colors, 6 to 8 inches of rainfall. And clearly, we can see that the most in the way of a rainfall over the next 7 days, according to the Euro model here and the GFS model here, should definitely be plaguing sections of the Yucatan, Belize, northern Guatemala, northern Honduras, eastern Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, sections of Colombia right there. You can also see a lot of moisture across eastern Puerto Rico, anywhere from Guadeloupe southward, Dominica, Martinique, St. Lucia, Barbados, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Trinidad and Tobago, sections of eastern and southern Venezuela. Also, we see a lot of moisture across Guyana, Suriname and French Guyana. And if we take a look at the Euro model, we're seeing the total rainfall amount over the very same spots. Those areas could definitely get in on some isolated flash flooding for sure. But regarding Jamaica's close-up, we don't see much change. Clearly, the most rainfall over the next 7 days, from now up until Tuesday, January 28th, should still be plaguing northern parishes. And we're talking especially St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland, where we see those greens. Portland showing up to at least 40 millimeters of rainfall right there with the yellows, some of which will spill into sections of northeastern St. Thomas. The GFS showing something similar in terms of the location, definitely St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland and sections of St. Thomas. But clearly Portland on both maps is receiving the most rainfall. The Euro showing more than what the GFS is showing. GFS only going up into the light shades of greens. That represents maybe all the way up to 30 millimeters of rainfall. Euro a bit more than that, 10 millimeters more than what the Euro, than what the GFS is showing. Either way, whatever takes place, I'll definitely be here to keep you posted with what occurs. Let's move on to the surface map. The surface map right here is showing the ridge of high pressure right here to the north that we know is responsible for sending all of the easterly trade winds across the main development region through the Caribbean. We see a cold front right here and a trough that it has induced right here across the northern portions of the main development region. And we see another frontal system right here stretching down into Florida, the other frontal system right here of the east coast, all of which is associated with what's causing some amount of snow across the southeastern US as we speak. And if we take a look at the visible satellite images of the Atlantic before the sun went down, we can see all of these entities. First of all, we can make out those low-level patches of clouds, those mid-level to low-level clouds pushing through the Caribbean from east to west. Some of these clouds definitely have some rainfall within them. We can see the clouds associated with the frontal system right here on the trough that it has induced across the northern mid-development region. And we can see the clouds associated with that frontal system that's currently bringing a lot of snow to section of the southern and the eastern US. We'll be talking more about the rest of the Caribbean to the later on. Let us focus our attention on the prediction that was made in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for today, Tuesday, January 21, 2025. It was stated that some rainfall was in the forecast for sections of some northern and eastern parishes on Tuesday morning, and possibly affecting sections of some western parishes during Tuesday afternoon. And we know northern parishes, we're talking about Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland. But eastern parishes, we're talking about those parishes like, well, those ones in the county of Surrey, like Portland, St. Thomas, Kingston, St. Andrew. Western parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Cornwall, like Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, Westmoreland, and St. Elizabeth. And what ended up happening? As early as around 7:26 a.m., the visible satellite image was posted not only here on our Twitter page of Weather Jamaica, but on our Instagram page of weather.jamaica, on our TikTok page of Weather Jamaica, and on our Facebook page of Weather Jamaica 876. So if you have one of those social media platforms, please ensure that you follow us there as we make posts throughout the day that you can't afford to miss. So look at this visible satellite imagery that was posted this morning, definitely highlighting some clouds, bringing overcast skies and some isolated shores to sections of mainland northern parishes. Some eastern parishes definitely gotten on the overcast skies, if not some isolated shores. We're talking about Kingston, St. Andrew, section of Portland, St. Mary, St. Anne, Trelawney definitely gotten on that morning cloud cover, if not rainfall. Then during the afternoon, look at what's taking place on the visible satellite imagery. We were definitely seeing some clouds across western Jamaica, maybe some isolated shores embedded within there across northeastern Westmoreland, southern Hanover, but we also saw some clouds coming in from the east across sections of eastern St. Thomas and eastern Portland. But that was basically it. Not much in the way of heavy cloud cover or wicked rainfall or anything like that. We even saw some clouds passing through southern Clarendon, some clouds sitting on top of northern St. Catherine, pushing towards southwestern St. Anne and southeastern Trelawney, but that was basically it for the day. And the infrared satellite imagery confirms this, because we don't see any cumulonimbus clouds, as you know, are represented by the blues, greens, yellows, oranges, reds, blacks, purples. Definitely dry times with just the low to mid-level clouds that we can see made out by the milky whitish or the grayish colors. And we have the halfway tree camera here from See Jamaica's YouTube channel confirming the dry conditions today. You can see people walking about, going about their business, people in their vehicles going about their business. Definitely fair weather today. This was at about 5:09 p.m. And I'd like for you to keep in mind that if you'd like to see more live streams like this, just visit See Jamaica on YouTube. They have these live streams for your viewing pleasure, and they're planning on increasing the amount of cameras that they have in and around the island. So subscribe today so that you don't miss out. Even the accumulated precipitation for the past 24 hours from the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology website confirms what the weather was like today. Definitely some isolated showers that were received across sections of some northern and eastern parishes, most of which took place during the morning hours. And if we take a look at the very latest still image from the Weather Nerd website about what's happening across the island right now, the latest still image is as of 0045 UTC, which is actually 7:45 p.m. So considering that it's 7:53 p.m. right now, this just came out 8 minutes ago. Don't see much in the way of anything. Definitely still fear there's some patches of low level clouds to our southeast and to our west. And the Cuban Doppler radar imagery, not really showing the latest, but it's going all the way up to 7 p.m. for today, January 21. We don't see much in the way for rainfall in and around the island at all. Maybe some that up to the south of St. Catherine. That's basically it. And all of this that we see on the northern side of the island is ground clutter. So that's just a glitch on the Cuban Doppler radar imagery. Taking a look at the Guantanamo Bay Cuban Naval Radar imagery, we don't see much taking place across eastern Cuba, western Haiti, or northeastern Jamaica. We're all in the clear. Taking a look right here at the Cayman radar, you can make out some isolated showers right here to the southwest of the Cayman Island, but that's basically it. And if we take a look right here at See Jamaica's YouTube channel, again showing what's happening across Crossroads, definitely a fair night, clear night as well. People in their vehicles going about their business, people walking about going about their business as of 7:54 p.m. Taking a look at the temperatures right now, we can see that we have 25 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 25 degrees Celsius in Kingston, and by about 4 a.m. on Wednesday, temperature should dip down to about 22 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 23 degrees Celsius in Kingston. Taking a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow, this map here from the GFS is valid for 18Z on Wednesday, which is actually 1 p.m. on Wednesday. And look at all of the below average temperatures across the US, stretching down into Central America. Very, very cool over there. We know the below average temperatures are represented by what we see here on the key on the right. We're talking about those blues into the greens into the purples, and we see a lot of that across the entire US into the Gulf of Mexico and Central America. But clearly, in terms of Jamaica's temperature, we see Jamaica right here embedded in some slight orange colors that represents up to 2 degrees Celsius above normal temperatures, as we can see here by the key on the right. And we know the normal temperature for the month of January across Jamaica is around 86.5 degrees Fahrenheit. And when that's converted to degrees Celsius, that's around 30.2 degrees Celsius. So we should be receiving anywhere from 30 to 32 degrees Celsius at most for Jamaica's temperature on Wednesday. And we're indeed grateful that it's, well, not as hot as the summer month, but boy, it is hot. But unfortunately, we have some bad news here from my JPS Online. We have some maintenance outage advisories for some areas, some parishes for the time period Wednesday, January 22, 2025. So if you live or work in these areas, or if you have friends or relatives who live or work in these areas, let them know that a power outage is coming their way, because you know that when we have power outages, it can definitely cause the heat to be worse. We don't have our fan or our AC to cool us down at all. So we're talking about Germantown and Freeman's Hall in Trelawney from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. We're also referring to Flint River in St. Mary from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. We also are talking about, this is Trinity in Manchester, 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Maryland in St. Andrew, 9:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. We have 9 miles Bull Bay Main Road and Greenville Road to Cane River District and Bito or Bito, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. We also have Trinity in Manchester, if I didn't already say that, 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. We have Mount Peace in Hanover, 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Cottage to Little London, that's in Westmoreland, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. We have Great House Circle in Mona. Great House Circle and Mona in St. Andrew, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And finally, we have Winona and Garvey Med in St. Catherine from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And if the heat is going to be a bit too much for you tomorrow, we have some tips right here to beat the heat as usual. When outside, seek shade. Eat fresh. Try eating cold foods such as salads and fruits. Rest. Make sure you get enough sleep and rest if you're feeling tired. Soak. Take a cool shower or bath to help you cool down. And I cannot stress enough the importance of staying hydrated throughout the day. Drink lots of water even if you're not thirsty. Stay hydrated as much as possible. And I suggest that you drink more water than the sugar drinks. Put away those sugar drinks. Drink water instead. Taking a look here at the dry air map, we know that the dry air is represented by what we see here on the key on the bottom. That's the yellows, the oranges, the reds, and the whites within those reds, and we can clearly see an abundance of dry air stretching all the way from Africa across the main development region through the Caribbean and into the Gulf of Mexico. We know the dry air is responsible for putting a lid or a cap on the entire atmosphere, making it definitely harder for it to rain. Lots of dry sinking air in the basin. Definitely dry conditions. I'm pretty sure that you hear a lot of fire trucks going around. Tis the season, dry months, and February is even more robust with the fire trucks going around for sure, outing all of those bushfires, some of which can cause, residential fires. Definitely easier for fires to get started during this time of year. So I hope persons are taking necessary precautions so that they're not that drastically affected. Taking a look at the Saharan dust forecast for 2 p.m. on Wednesday, we can see some slight Saharan dust right here across this portion of the main development region. And that's what we want to see. We don't want to see that vigorous plume that's represented by the dark brown color that we know can cause very hazy skies, not to mention trigger some amount of respiratory illnesses in some persons. So we're indeed grateful that Northern South America, the Caribbean, the Bahamas, North America, and Central America are all in the clear from the Saharan dust. Taking a look at the wave forecast for tomorrow, we can clearly see that the highest waves should be across the Gulf of Mexico, as we see those burgundy colors. It represents up to 5 all the way up to 6 meter wave heights. The Caribbean getting their fair share of high wave heights, up to 2 to 3 meters across the southern to the southwestern Caribbean for sure. Let's take a closer look at Jamaica. That's up to 1.2 meter wave height on the north coast, south coast, especially on the southeastern side, 2.3, and that's because of the winds that are expected. Clearly we see a strong northerly flow across the Gulf of Mexico. We are seeing some greens into the yellows that represent 20 to 25, maybe even gusting to 30 knot winds. Across the Caribbean, we see more of an easterly flow, kind of curving southward towards the southwest. And we see the mixture of the greens into the yellows that represent the 20 to 30 knot winds for sure. But regarding Jamaica's close-up, we can clearly see that it's going to be more of an easterly flow, definitely weaker on the north coast. We're talking about up to at least 9 knots in some spots, could be higher than that. What about right here? 12 knots on the south coast, however, 19 knots could definitely come inshore across sections of some southern parishes. Definitely going to be gusty across those spots for real. If we take a look at this is the wind shear map, we see that we have some wind shear to be experienced coming in from the west and northwest, but we don't even have any high cold cloud tops for those winds to be shearing off or anything like that. But if we take a look at the actual rainfall forecast maps now, this map here from the Euro and this map from the GFS are both showing 5 a.m. on Wednesday, and we can clearly see some blues that represent isolated shores across section of eastern St. Thomas, eastern Portland right there. There's some isolated shores, some early morning rainfall skipping to about 10 a.m. We still see the blues represent rainfall affecting sections of some eastern parishes, but by afternoon we start to see some differences and some consensus. We see some blues represent isolated shores around 4 p.m. for western Jamaica, maybe southern St. James, northwestern St. Elizabeth, sections of Hanover and Westmoreland on the Euro. GFS trying to incorporate mainly St. Elizabeth, northern Clarendon, maybe a section of St. Anne. The Euro trying to incorporate those areas as well, northern Clarendon, a section of St. Anne, but we don't see much across St. Andrew like what we see on the Euro, what we see here on the GFS. We'll see exactly what unfolds. I'll definitely be here to keep you posted with what occurs on our other social media platforms though. Either way, in terms of the accumulated precipitation forecast from both the Euro and the GFS model, showing rainfall all the way up to 10 p.m. on Wednesday, we can clearly see the most rainfall over the next 24 hours should be plaguing eastern Jamaica, as the Euro is showing all the way up to the yellows here, up to 0.3 of an inch of rainfall at most for the far eastern end of the island. GFS showing something similar in terms of the location, the far eastern end, but the rainfall total is definitely less, only up to 0.19 or 0.15 of an inch of rainfall at most. And the lack of rainfall is definitely expected. We're in the month of January, and in Kingston, whose bar graph is being shown right here at the top, we usually receive up to 20 millimeters of rainfall for the month of January. In Montego Bay, whose bar graph is being shown right here at the bottom, we usually receive up to 3 inches of rainfall. And I would like for you to keep in mind that if you'd like to find out what your specific parish usually receives for the month of January or for the entire year in terms of rainfall, you can visit weatherandclimate.com, and that website will show you that information. And you can use this nice graphic right here that converts rainfall from inches to millimeters. You know that 1 inch of rainfall is about the same as 25 millimeters of rainfall, so you do the math yourself. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let us focus our attention on the rest of the Caribbean. So, as stated, We have some low-level patches of clouds pushing from east to west across the Caribbean for sure. Some of these clouds definitely have some isolated shores within them. We have this huge frontal system definitely causing bad weather, rainfall, if not snow, to section the southern and eastern US as we speak. And we have a lot of moisture pushing through from the intertropical convergence zone to sections of northeastern South America. We're talking about Guyana, Suriname, French Guyana, definitely getting nailed as we speak. But let us focus our attention on the northeastern Caribbean. Let us load up the Doppler radar images of that side of the world. Is it gonna load in time? Either way, in the meantime, let us look at the Barbados radar. We're seeing some hit or miss isolated showers pushing in from the east northeast, definitely affecting sections of Martinique as we speak, if not later on. We also see some of this passing through St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, some of it to the east northeast and pushing towards west southwest towards Grenada. We see some of it passing through Tobago. Let's see if we're going to be seeing any of that coming through to Trinidad. But before we look at that, let's see what's happening across the Leeward Islands right now. We see some moisture in and around Montserrat, Antigua and Barbuda, to the north of Puerto Rico as well. And if we load these images from earlier today at around 2:10 p.m., we can see that east-southeasterly flow passing through Puerto Rico. They definitely got some isolated shores, especially on the northern side for sure. We can also see some of that moisture pushing in from Antigua and Barbuda towards St. Kitts and St. Martin. And if we take a look at the weather view of Doppler radar images, we can definitely make out some of the isolated shores pushing from east to west throughout the ABC Islands, some of it across section of Trinidad too. We also see some moisture across the Yucatan, northern Guatemala, section of Belize, some of the moisture associated with the frontal system pushing from west to east across sections of Florida too. And if we take a look at where most of the rainfall is expected within the next 24 hours, both maps here from the Euro and the GFS are showing all the rainfall expected from now up until 10 p.m. on Wednesday, and we can clearly see that the most rainfall over the next 24 hours should be plaguing these spots. We're talking about Central America. Anywhere from the Yucatan southward, we're talking about Guatemala, Belize, northern and eastern Honduras, eastern Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, western Colombia, sections of northeastern Guyana, section of Suriname, French Guyana. We also see some rainfall definitely in store for Trinidad and Tobago, section of Grenada, so to Martinique, sections of Dominica, Guadeloupe, northward as well. We're talking about Guyana, well, not Guyana, Antigua, also Anguilla, maybe St. Martin, St. Kitts and Nevis, eastern Puerto Rico, section of northern and eastern Dominican Republic. We also see some of this moisture spilling into sections of Florida too, and clearly we see that both the Euro and the GFS models are in agreement with the rainfall forecast, and we know that when they're in agreement like this, the chances of it actually happening are much higher. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.